Sonic Talk.
Hello everybody, welcome to Sonic Talk, episode 575, which sounds like one of those numbers that should have some great significance, but I couldn't think of anything that there's not an RE505 or a Space Echo 575. But anyway, I'm sure someone will let us know. Let us know in the chat room, because we've got the chat room here. We've got the YouTube chatties, nice to see you. We've also got the IRC chatties at the same time. This is the podcast to do with music technology, folks. And today is one of those days where we're feeling a little bit technically shaky. Anything could happen, but I think it's going to be all right. And today's show is recording on Wednesday, the 1st of May, 2019, just before Super Booth. There won't be a show next week because we're going to Super Booth, hopefully, and that will all be good. So anyway, let's get on to it. We've got a few guests in this week. Let's say hello, first of all, to Mr. Dominic Hawken there, who's fully modded up with his Lambretta T-shirt. Dominic Hawken's app developer.
Bit of new sponsorship here. But,
songwriter, producer, synth head, as you could see from his beautifully equipped studio behind. How are you doing, Dominic? You well?
I'm good, thank you very much. I'm good. I've had a good week. I went to see the Deluge guys. I know I've got a bit of a soft spot for Deluge because I'm always going on about it. Let me just sort this out so you can hear me properly. Well, I can hear myself. Yeah, I went to see them because Ian from Deluge was over at the weekend, and he gave me and a bunch of other Delugers a peek at the new looping facilities. They're going to do a free upgrade, which turns it into a looper. Ooh. And some other stuff as well. But honestly, it's incredible. It probably makes it a better looper than any other of the hardware loopers, like the 505s and 202s and all that. The 202, isn't it? All that stuff. Just amazing. And it was really good to meet them.
Yeah, well, I didn't get a chance to meet him. He was going to come over here once because he was doing something in Bristol, but we couldn't join it all up in the end. So I didn't get to meet him. But we are going to go and see him in Berlin, where we'll see, because there's new firmware. What's it got? It's got the not metering. There's some kind of graphical update, isn't there? Which I can't remember what it is.
Yeah, some of it's already. I mean, the looping will be the main one, and potentially something he didn't show us and wouldn't tell us about, which sounds quite exciting. It also introduces a keyboard, like a QWERTY keyboard, so you can type on the buttons as if they were a QWERTY keyboard to name stuff. I mean, it is incredible. It's incredible the way that they keep developing stuff for that thing. But honestly, the looper. I'm going to sell my standalone looper because there really is no point once you've seen this thing. It's so clever, it's excellent. And then what else? Oh, I've been sampling a bunch of old weird and wonderful radio noises off of shortwave and all that kind of stuff for a couple of ambient friends. We thought it might be a good idea to try that. So I got an old radio and I've been tuning around the bands and getting all sorts of whooshes and funny noises, and also really obscure kind of half conversations and weird sounding communication noises all over the place, like number stations.
That's great fun, that stuff, isn't it?
So been doing that. So busy week.
What looper have you got, if you don't mind me asking, that you're going to sell? Because I'm thinking about getting one.
Oh, well, I'll send
Is it an RC505 by any chance?
It's the 505. I can't remember if it's 202 or 505. It's a big one. So if the 505 is the big one. I only bought it about 4 months ago. Actually, my daughter, she's 7. She started playing the piano, and we've got it so that she can do kind of stuff on the piano. But you're very, very welcome.
Okay, well, I'll talk to you about that afterwards.
All right, no worries.
Thank you very much. Okay, well, there's Dominic Hawken, and we've also got 2 for the price of 1 here with Mr. Dave Spears on the right from GForce Software, and Mr. Ty Unwin on the left, who's a media composer. They are at Synth Heaven, which is Ty's studio, which is packed full of synths, and Dave is there probably being really annoying, going, can I turn it on? Can we have that one now? And Ty, I hope this is testing that your patch bay is fully normal, so you could just go, yeah, sure, and it's a really casual thing rather than, hold on a minute, I've got to just get under here and find this and that. Yeah. No, is the answer.
I'm gonna lie and go, yeah, that's exactly how it's been.
Yeah, it's been amazing. Yeah, I just go, can I play that one? And it's there, like magic. That's all a complete lie.
Yeah, in our dreams. Yeah. So so we're the 2 naughty schoolboys today.
Well, it's lovely to have you. We don't get to see you very often, Ty, or you, Dave. So two at once. It's like Christmas. It's May Day.
I know. You say Christmas.
May Day. Yeah. Anyway, there is some synth news this week. Actually, I should mention, of course, I want to say thanks to iZotope for providing the prize for this week's show, which is going to be RX7. That will come on a little bit later on. And also Softube, who will be telling you a little bit about Parallels, which is their brand new soft synth. So anyway, let's start with this. This is another quite atmospheric and, well, what do you make of it? It's the big news. It's the synth. Is it playing? Oh, it is. Yes, I think it is. Sounds great in headphones, this. This is, of course, the new Moog Matriarch. I wonder when they'll be doing the Harridan and the Hag, maybe. This is... It does sound nice. So there's a bunch of people, Lisa Belladonna, who've been exploring the Matriarch. This is the brand new four-voice. It's like a four-voice grandmother, but it's got stereo operation. So the VCA stereo, I think the CP3 is stereo, or the mixer. And so far, it sounds lovely. Instead of a spring, it's got a BBD, which is from the MS201, I believe, and a four-voice oscillator, which can be paraphonic twice or paraphonic 4 or unison. And I have to say, I really liked the grandmother, and I know I've moaned quite a lot in the past about Moog subtractive synth, and I wasn't sure how I was going to feel when I reviewed the grandmother, but it was great, and I have to say it's lovely. And so this is the sort of video. It seems Moog seem to be going for the selling the lifestyle. If you buy a Moog, then all of these dreams will come true. You'll have this beautiful barn in the country, and you'll be able to just play electronic music and stuff. It's all like tied in. It's become very lifestyle. But anyway, the Matriarch is big news. I guess. I don't know, Ty. Have you got a grandmother? I mean, synthesizer, of course. I'm talking about.
No, I don't. I'm kind of a bit mooged out. I've got what have I got?
55.
I've got an XL. I've got 55, an XL.
A 1. Oh, yeah.
yeah. A Moog 1 and something else. A Voyager, another Voyager, a normal Voyager, and the grandmother for me. I mean, I'm kind of going through a stage where I've just got too many monosynths. That's my thing, and I'm not a monosynth kind of man, really. I've realized that after the years. And so the grandmother, although I love the facilities on it and I love the sound of it, it was one monosynth too many. But this, I mean, do I really need? I don't really need
color.
This.
It's the I think it's the color you need in your room, right? Perhaps more than anything else.
I have a feeling you can completely ignore everything I say today, because I think if you come back in 6 months' time, there'll probably be one here. But I'm just to contradict myself, I'm going to say, no, it's not really up to much and I'm not really interested. But yeah, come back in 6 months and there'll probably be one here because you've won me over.
Yeah.
I mean, a four-voice version of the grandmother can only be good, really. And, you know, I mean, we've had this conversation so many times about the difference between polyphonic and paraphonic and whatever. And I think there's something to be said for paraphonic. And I have to say, I don't have much in the way of paraphonic synths. And there you go. They behave differently. And so maybe that is what will win me over. So
yeah, well, that's true. That's true. So if somebody came out with a 5-voice, you wouldn't have many 5 voices. Well, you might maybe a Prophet 5. I don't know. I know. I see what you're saying. I understand that. I mean, I'm kind of looking forward to trying it out if I get the opportunity. It's not out yet. I mean, it's been pre-ordered and sort of pre-announced at Moogfest, which is the weekend. We've got. Actually,
well, no, you could pre-order yesterday.
Yeah. Okay.
Yesterday you could pre-order. Yeah.
How would you know if you weren't interested? I got you there. There we go. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that to you, but yeah. I'm looking forward to it. I mean, I think it's going to be very interesting, and what I'm curious to know is whether or not it's got the same topography, because the thing about the grandmother was they basically built the same sort of 55 module parts. It just wasn't. It was all surface mount, so it was the same design, same circuit design, but in a kind of much more affordably made system, and that's why it sounds incredible. That's the thing about the grandmother. It's just like, oh, here we go, and then you just listen to us and you go, oh my goodness, that's so Moogy. I don't know, Dave, have you got enough Moog in your life? Or Moog, sorry, oops.
Probably. I think for the minute, yeah. I mean, obviously we've got the 55, a couple of minis, Minute Moog as well.
Oh yeah, I forgot the Mini Moog. I've got a Mini Moog as well. Sorry, I forgot that one. Sorry.
Yeah. So yeah, I think for the time being, I'm not convinced with the color scheme thing. I don't know, green's. I don't know whether it's a good look.
Green on a synth.
Yellow.
I think it's
always good, but I don't know. Maybe I'm just waiting for the Moog misogynist.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
The Moog patriarchy.
I think it looks good. I have to say, I think from a form factor, I think it looks cool.
I don't know. Yeah, I'm sure it's great. It just looks a bit kind of Radio Shack-like to me.
I know what you mean. I know what you mean, but that's all right. That's okay. I don't have a problem with that. It's great in the flesh. I know, Dominic. I mean, obviously, there's got to be a critical. How many Moogs could you actually have in a single mix? I think there must be a limit. You know, an actual sort of theoretical limit. About two.
Well, one in the top and the one in the bottom, right? Yeah, quite. I don't know. I really want to try this out. I think it's going to be great. I really like the idea of it being monophonic with 4 oscillators. I think that's the thing for me. I'm not too worried about the paraphonic style or anything. I just think that sound. But I'm kind of with Ty in that another mono synth. There are quite a few around here, and they're so tempting to pick up because they all make such lovely squelchy noises. And then do they end up on tracks? Well, 1 at a time, 2 at a time, something like that. I do have a couple of Mother 32s here, which I like, but they're single oscillator. They do make a lovely noise, and they're great for fiddling around. We're doing modulary stuff. So if they are like that, but like the grandmother with 4 oscillators all stacked up, then the paraphonic bit is like a bonus, really. So I am quite interested, and I'm on the side of color scheme isn't great. It's the blue that does it for me, but you shouldn't really be talking about colors when we're talking about synthesizers, really. But yeah, Radio Shacky is I know is the one. Saying. Wouldn't stop me from buying one. Definitely wouldn't stop me from buying one, and I'm really looking forward to hearing it.
I think the other thing from my point of view is the fact that one of my favorite synths and I've said this a few times before, one of my favorite synths and one of the only ones I regret letting go of was the Korg Monopoly. And so there's something you play differently when there's 4 voices. Yeah, you do play very differently. And I mean, I've got a polyevolver which is only 4 voice, and the way you actually shape things is completely different when you know there's that limitation. And I have a feeling that this, which is kind of a cross between something like a polyevolver and a Korg Monopoly, I don't know. I think there's a lot to be said for it. And you're right. I mean, it sounds great. It does sound great. I don't think you can question the sound of it.
I've got to wonder, because the thing is with 4 oscillators going into the mixer and the filter, presumably there's this massive. There must have to be a much wider range of gain, because I mean the thing about the grandmother, for instance, that topography, you had a fairly standardized gain. You could have 2 oscillators going through, and then you'd get, but so that additional headroom and that additional drive, which end would you put it in? I mean, what does it become more driven, or does it become less efficient when you're only using 1 oscillator as opposed to 4? Do you see what I mean? I mean, is there enough signal? Yeah. Is there enough signal from 1 oscillator to be able to make the filter and the VCA do what it should do?
Well, all I do know is the fact that with the Moog 1, I know they've had issues with that, and I still don't think they've completely sorted out the issues.
Oh, the gain staging. 1.
Yeah, I still think they've got issues with that. It's still not quite there.
Right.
I feel quite bad, actually, because since Dave's been here, all I've really been doing is moaning about the Moog 1, which is it's true though. But it's still not quite there, and that is one of the major issues. So I mean, but that is with a lot more voices. So I'm kind of hoping that whatever they've learned from that, hopefully they're passing down to this.
What is the filter on this? Do we know?
It's a ladder. It's a straight ladder. It's like, I think it's the same. It's the same as but it's going to be stereo, because it's a stereo. So all of the modules will be stereoized. So they're not quite the same. So I'd imagine that changes quite a lot of what's going on under the hood and how it's distributed and stuff. But it's certainly very interesting. And I think it's got like 90 patch points. So there's a lot of stuff that it'll do, in terms of patching. But I mean, the thing that I found is we went to Synthfest. When was it? October. And I just reviewed the grandmother, and they were I can't remember who the dealer was there, but they had grandmothers there, and they were knocking them out at £1,000, and they were selling like hotcakes, and people were just like, I can't believe I got it for this price. And it really and it really feels like a very sweet spot, in much the same way that the Sub 37 seemed to be like loads of Moog for the money. the grandmother feels the same again, but a different kind of Moog, and not quite as croaky and driven as the Sub 37, and obviously the subsequent 37 has changed the gain structure again. But those are the sort of things that kind of Yeah, sorry.
I was going to say that analog delay is quite interesting as well. If it's like the Mini Fuga or the Mooga Fuga would be great, but they run out of chips again, didn't they? On that one, but
yeah, I've just been looking at an interview we did with Amos Gaines. A chap called Joe Silver has been at Moogfest, and he's sending videos that he shot for us. And one of them is a talk with Amos Gaines about the Moog One, and he's saying, sorry, no, not Amos Gaines. Oh gosh, no, somebody else, Nick Valente, that's right. And he's saying that they've sourced a new source of chips that allow them to do the proper BBD thing. So I think that's nice. Good news for everybody.
Nice. Well, I'm not sure what chips they're using in the delay that's on the Matriarch, but it's nice to have a kind of ping pong analog delay. I think it's 700 milliseconds or something, as well as just the spring reverb and stuff that was on there before. I think that makes a big difference to Moog sounds if you've got something like that on the end, which is quite dull and almost grainy sounding. It's a nice thing to have on there.
Oh, I think inbuilt effects in synths, particularly just a delay or a reverb, is a great thing indeed. Anyway, yeah, they say. I mean, there is the pre-order page here. Which oops, that's not it at all, is it? The pre-order page, which is it's $2,000 basically, $2,000 expected to ship 708. I don't know if that's August or July because of the way that Americans do their date formatting. It depends. So yeah, and it's the Moog Festival. I think they made, was it 240 or 250? I forget which. So there's an initial run, and then like Moog seem to be doing a lot of, they then will go on another run at some point in the future once they've sold out. But it seems to work for them. So yeah, there it goes. Let's see then. I've got something else. Have I got my page here? Sorry, I'm got too many web pages open. Oh yeah, here we go. This is from a guy called MIDI Error, who is a friend of ours, and he sends stories in for Sonic once in a while, and he came up with this, which I think is a really cool idea. This is called Super Smash Button, and it's literally just a gate on a button, which seems like a really obvious idea, but I think it's a brilliant idea. And you can also advance clocks as well, which is another really cool. Or maybe break clocks, I'm not sure. So the clock would go in, that's right, so you can advance it. So you let the clock through, that's right. So great for sort of rhythmic stuff. It's just a really simple and a brilliant idea that uses an arcade button. I think it costs about... what is it? It's like 30 odd bucks, 40 bucks, 30 quid, something like that. And it's just a really simple idea. But it reminded me of there are things like you get those on a guitar, which is a pot that you can tap, which is like a gate. So you can kind of get gated volume stuff. And it's just a really simple but basic idea. Dave, it's the sort of thing that I think you should probably have in your studio.
Definitely.
And you, Ty.
I love things like this. Definitely. Love all the things like this. I bought... In fact, it was funny because when I was listening to this, it reminded me. I bought Carl Hyde years and years ago. It's like a little light sensor thing that you plug into your guitar, and you could use that as a kind of volume gate.
A dB.
It was pretty cheap, and I remember sending it back to him from Nan, going, "Here's an early birthday present." And then when I asked him about it, he said it was like one of the worst things he'd ever tried to use because the noise floor was utterly diabolical. I'm sure he could make good use out of it. But honestly, I could think of places where I could use this all over the show.
All over. It's just such a simple idea. You do sit there going, why has no one done this before?
Yeah.
Because it's one of those kind of get out of jail things that you know what you want to do. And then you actually start thinking, by the time I've got this set up, by the time I get this triggered, by the time I get the ins and outs and all, this just seems like a godsend.
Do it by hand.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Also, much more fun than just turning the filter knob for the audience.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anything's more fun than turning the
Well,
filter.
we wonder whether or not they should have one of those really massive gaming sort of backlit buttons. So you really, you can really make a big thing of it, like those huge sort of emergency stop buttons. I think there was a clock button or a start-stop button that Andreas did from Schneidersladen, which was just a huge kind of alien spaceship bay door stopping button, and you just hit that for stop and go, and it just looked really good. And I guess but those are those kind of industrial strength buttons. They cost a fortune. I mean, they're really expensive. That's probably why this costs what it does. I mean, it's it's 40 quid, which isn't very expensive, but the button is probably a lot of the cost of that. I don't know, Dominic, is this something that, because you could do it, you could sort of do it with your finger on a jack, can't you, a little bit, and just sort of doing
not the same, not the
doing
same.
that, but it's not the same thing.
That guitar thing, it blew me away. I must have been about 14 at a gig or something, and someone just struck this huge guitar chord that kind of your hair's going, when I used to have hair, and then you tap this thing and you're, whoa, it's incredible. And that's such a brilliant idea. I think it's just an analog thing, right? Audio in, audio out, switch in the middle.
I think that's literally it.
Utterly brilliant. I used to have a company. We remade. Do you remember the Space Invaders cocktail tables where you sit across from a table with that? I wanted one for the studio, and I ended up forming a company with another guy who used to work on these things, and we made them. We didn't make a huge amount because they were so expensive to build, but we made them, and some kind of footballers used to buy them, and I think Jonathan Ross bought one.
Like that? Is that the sort of thing?
That's exactly it. Way back when
4,250 quid. This one will set you back.
They were just over three. They were just over $3,000. But I remember we got the front cover of Stuff magazine the year we came out saying best stuff gadgety thing ever. But because of that, we've still got a load of those buttons.
Out in the lockup, out the back. We've got some of those buttons.
Out the lockup, like half a daily. But having said that, obviously I'm not going to start making these things. This guy is a genius. But you're right. The buttons can be, even in about 5 or 6 quid. The case is going to cost you tenner. But by the time you've drilled a hole, screwed it all together, there'll be some balancing resistors and stuff inside. But the world is your oyster. If you start lighting them up and having some great big buttons on a big array and stuff, it makes for a good stage show. But yeah, brilliantly simple. Everyone's busy like I am, building MIDI devices with Teensies and Arduinos and Pis, and he just connects a switch between 2 jacks and he's got a hit on his hands. It's brilliant. That's excellent. I hope so. It's called the Super Smash button, and if you search that out, it's MIDI Errors, the guy. Definitely well worth it. Actually, I tell you what, I've got this beautiful Raspberry Pi case that I've bought the other day. Look at that. That's a beautiful thing. That's got buttons on it as well. And that's a screen as well, a little 2-inch screen. Delightful. And it's made of metal.
Oh, I wish you could have seen Dave and I's faces there when you were just showing that.
As if.
I swear. Shall we just reenact that moment when you just did that? We just looked at one another and just went.
Wait till you see what you can do with these things. They're fantastic. I was going to say, because you were saying about the monopoly, and I had exactly the opposite. I don't know if I've said this on the podcast before, because when I started doing the Fun Friday things, I was like, the monopoly's definitely going to be one of those, and I was going to get it fixed because it was a bit poorly, and I set it all up, and I just thought it sounded really unimpressive compared to everything else. I was like, I remember this sounding way better than this, and it really didn't. I'm afraid I'm not with you there. And I used to say, I've been quoted regularly as saying, it was one of my favourite synths, and I'm just not so sure anymore. I really am not sure. I don't know why, but it just doesn't sound that impressive anymore. The oscillators are skinny.
I have not heard one for so long that I'm in no position to comment, really. But as I remember, I know it could be rose-tinted spectacles, but I remember it being... do you know what? I think it could have been because it's one of those synths that I knew like the back of my hand. And I think the moment you get one of those, there's always something imprinted of it being
I know, I agree.
Amazing than it was.
Yeah, I think that's what happened to me as well. Yeah, I think that's what happened to me. Anyway, I just wanted to mention that because it
bring me down. Thanks for that.
Well, not really. I think you've got enough synths to probably get you through this difficult patch, Ty.
Whoa, boom, boom.
Oh yeah, that was a joke. I made a little joke. I didn't realise.
That's when you need the button.
Yeah, we need a button. It's like the tumbleweed button that we used to have when there was a dead moment. That Howard Scar very kindly made a tumbleweed sort of jingle that we could just play when I'd ask a question. Nobody would. I don't know if I've still got it. I wonder if I've still got it.
Bring it back, Nick.
Hold on, let's see if I can tumbleweed.
Find it now.
Tumbleweed. I wonder if I've still got it. I don't think that's on this machine. That's a shame, isn't it? Because that would be. I'd like to play that now. Oh, if I spelt it right, that would probably help, wouldn't it? Tumbleweed. Oh,
Go on.
Name matches Tumbleweed. It's got to be it. It's got to be on this machine somewhere, surely.
Come on, William.
Wow.
What?
That's really. I'm surprised, but I will. I'll dig it out. We'll play it. But Howard very kindly built that for us. Okay, right. I'm just going to quickly have a quick word from our friends at iZotope while we're instead of Tumbleweed.
RX continues to be the industry standard and leader in audio repair for music and post-production. And with RX7, we've introduced groundbreaking new ways to quickly and easily fix and manipulate audio. Take the game-changing Repair Assistant, an intelligent helper that can detect noise, clipping, clicks, hum, and more. Also new in RX7 is Music Rebalance, a powerful source separation tool. Drums too loud? Vocals not loud enough? Let's fix that. You can also create instrumental versions of songs by removing the vocal elements. You can now alter the pitch without affecting the timing of your audio, and conversely, alter the time without affecting the pitch with the new variable time and variable pitch modules. Using the new dialogue contour, you can improve the performance of a line or even create a new performance by altering the pitch contour of the dialogue, therefore adjusting the intonation of the speaker, and introducing Dialogue Dereverb, a module powered by machine learning to reduce the presence of reverberations around dialogue. RX7, a new frontier in audio repair.
And of course, you could download RX7 and try it out for yourself. Anybody these days will have RX because it's just so great for dealing with audio problems. iZotope.com, and of course we got a competition. Excuse me, chaps. Hello. I'm still doing the ad. You don't mind? I told you. I knew you'd be trouble. It does mute, but only while the ad's playing. Well, not when I'm talking afterwards. Anyway, so yes, we're looking for the hashtag Spectral Repair and the hashtag RX7 to @Sonicstate and @iZotope Inc. So if you want to win a copy of RX7, we're looking for the hashtag Spectral Repair and the hashtag RX7 to @Sonicstate and @iZotope Inc. And we got a winner from last week, who is somebody called. No, that looks like East, but it's got the S, so it's E.T. Krommerhoek. I'm guessing maybe Dutch, but I'm really not going to try. And it's, again, the never-ending story of unpronounceable Twitter handles. But you won last week's competition, so Itzy Krommenhoek at Eatsec. If you want to get in touch, iZotope will bestow RX7 upon you. So I hope you thoroughly enjoy that. Right, let's see what's next. Neat idea, we've done that one. Ah, yeah, here we go. Here it comes. So this is, we talked about this a long time ago. There was a prototype of Soma Laboratories, makers of the Lyra 8 and the Pipe. And this is it. This is the Pulsar 23, which has got a very Lyra-style case with those touch buttons. And all of these little patch points, which are actually... They're not switches, they're actually M2 bolts or M-something bolts that you put crocodile clips on for patching, which is a genius idea, because no moving parts. But it's got a certain something about it that is... It's got a sound already, I can tell. So this is a prototype that's going to be happening at... not a prototype, production, I guess. Production prototype. I could listen to it for ages. It's got that woody quality that the... I forget, the CR78 had, or the Bentley Rhythm Ace, but it's also got that kind of sizzle and ping that you get from slightly more modern drum machines. I'm very excited by this. I don't really go for drum machines. I think this is called is it called a stochastic machine? Because I think it's got auto self-generating stuff on it. It's going to be about 12 to 1,500 euros. I'm making a beeline for Vlad Kreimer, who we did Meet the Makers with, to take a look at this at Super Bowl. I really can't wait. I'm going to come to you, Dominic, first. Have you experienced the Soma Laboratories moment yet?
Not at all. And I've just been looking up like the Lyra, wasn't it, that they did before the 4 and the 8. And I've not played one of those, but I went down the rabbit hole of demos and people playing around with them. It's just brilliant. I couldn't really work out what it was doing. And a lot of the demos actually were people kind of saying, just move things till it sounds right. And actually then a millimeter in the other way kind of goes, you'll get a completely different sound. It looks amazing. And they also do DIY kits as well, which I really like with boutique manufacturers as well, because it cuts the cost down a lot. And this, I agree, it looks absolutely amazing. So I think it's 4 channels of drums on there, looper stuff going on, and these crocodile clip things, which is great. It's exactly the same as a booklet style or some of those modulars where you have single, rather than jacks with 2 cables going down, you just have single patch points on there. And that cuts the cost down massively. And the sound is just brilliant from what I can see. It's been a long time in development. He's, I think, a one-man band. And it really is all about the sound. It's kind of what I wanted the Moog 30, the Mother 32 and the DFAM kind of in a box together to do, really. And obviously they are completely different things, but the DFAM is supposedly a drum synthesizer, and to me it's a bit of a one-trick pony. It does make some nice noises, but it didn't really fill me with a huge amount of enthusiasm when I tried it out. And this just looks like, something you could just get totally lost into. And it's modular, but you don't need to do anything to plug anything into it. So it's got that semi-modular vibe, so you can get instant gratification without getting lost in how the little bits work. And you're right, sonically there's just a warmth, like an autumn
yeah,
day.
he's really into the notion of electronics having some kind of soul and spirit. When I talk to him about it, he's got to make some sort of connection with it, and it's I think that's the thing that sounds quite interesting about this. And he's completely nutty, when it comes to that kind of thing. But it seems to have done him well. I mean, I know they've sold loads of those Lyras. I mean, and it is. I think the thing about this is it does have some standardization. There must be some kind of clock or some kind of pulse, whereas the Lyra 8 is just completely off the radar. You can connect it to stuff, but it won't do anything meaningful at all with control voltages. No pitching, nothing. The gating is kind of very soft, but it's a fascinating thing. Did either of you guys try the Lyra 8? Did you go for that, Ty? I can't remember.
I've got one.
That's why we were being naughty, because I was convinced. I was going, have I seen one of those around here somewhere?
Yeah.
So I was pointing down to it, and I was like, oh, what do you think?
Yeah, I've got a Lyra 8. Love it. Absolutely love it.
Because I know, do you use it very often, or is it the sort of thing you get out and just record a load of stuff and then put it away?
Yeah, no, last year I did it kind of provided the sound sources about 80% of a score that I did. And to get it, I basically just sat and messed around with it and recorded everything that I did on it for, I'm going to say hours. I think it ended up being almost days, really, but I mean a good few hours. And I sifted through the material, and that ended up, and then sampling big sections of that and using that source material, because you can't.
Yeah, did you tune it to anything? Did you tune it to anything? Yeah, so you remembered to begin with to get it to tune to some kind of reference note.
Yeah, just one of the oscillators. I just kind of got tuned to something, and everything was based around that. But I mean, it's one of those where trying to recreate whatever you do is almost impossible.
Forget it. It's just
And you've just got to record it at that moment and go with it. But it's unlike. It just sounds unlike anything else. It's so organic, and it's so. You just kind of think, do you know what? I could possibly get something like this with a big modular or something. But then you kind of think, even then, the amount of cabling and programming that would go into that would be vast, absolutely vast. I love it. I mean, I really like my Lyra 8. And what I really like about this drum machine is, I think calling it a drum machine, it's not even a drum machine. It's just bonkers.
And I
think the world, the world needs people like him, basically, who are just really not quite with us, because they're the people that make the special things. They're the people that take things into a new place. And I mean, I've got so many drum machines and so many drum kind of things, and I swore after the last one I wasn't going to buy any more. But I really want one of these, just because I just think there's so much more to it than a rhythm box or whatever. It's I think there's something quite. I think it's going to be something quite special. And the biggest test for me is always, if I don't buy it now, am I going to do what we all do? Is look back in 10 years' time and go, "Oh my God, do you remember the so-and-so? I wish I had one of those." And I have a feeling that if I don't buy one, I'll look back on this when I see one on eBay for 5,000 quid in 10 years' time, going, "Oh, I wish I'd bought that." So
yeah, well, that's true.
That's always the test for me.
But
That's
I mean,
always a
like I say, he's going to be at Super Booth. I don't know. Dave, am I right? You're going to go to Super Booth for at least a day, all right? Is that so? You could check him out. He's a really interesting bloke.
Yeah. No, I definitely want. He's definitely on my list. I've heard really good things about the jobby, but I've got a polygamist, and that's just insane. So
that sounds like a condition.
Well, it
You
pretty
can get
much
some,
is. I mean, if
get some medicine.
Get some cream for that.
You want to see a
I get
doctor?
therapy for it.
Yeah.
But no, if ever I want to come up with something completely oblique and mad and insane, I just go straight to the polygamist thing. It's that Ekdal Labs. I think he only made a few of them. I bought it off of Robbie. Ekdal Labs. Yeah. No, Erectile Labs.
Second-hand
Ekdal
polygamist.
Labs. Yeah, no, it's amazing. It's got a ribbon strip on it, and it's just insane. Again, you can never get the same thing twice. But I've come up with some utterly amazing textures. In fact, well, yeah, maybe, should I say it? A friend of mine's father died, and I had nothing to say to him that could be of any comfort. So I just made him the most beautiful noise of this thing and said, "Here's this instead." And he came back saying, "Actually, that was there you go. That was the most touching thing that anybody had said to him in the last during this." Period. So that's my go-to device.
You see, I'm slightly worried about that because I spent quite a long time with Robbie once when Robbie had it.
Yeah,
and we spent about half an hour on it and couldn't get a single a single sound out of it that made any sense whatsoever. It's unbelievably complicated.
I'll send you this sound. It's an amazing thing. But it's funny you saying about tuning because I'd done this thing and I thought, wow, I can hear that with a double bass, acoustic bass line underneath it and stuff. And then it was like, yeah, but it won't sit with anything because I didn't tune it.
Yeah, that's the thing to remember. I mean, I've done this many times before where I've started a review and I've got all the way through something and then I realised that I forgot to tune it to a reference. So then trying to play it with anything else and it's real pain actually and also getting back to anything because you didn't have the note and you're trying to move it. Yeah, always tune up, folks. Really is. I know it sounds boring and it is quite boring to do, but it's worth doing. Just get yourself a tuner, especially for analog electronics. Definitely makes sense. But so yeah, I can't remember what I was saying now. Oh yeah, the Pulsar. I saw that. So this is going to be there. It is. It's going to be on at Synth. A Super Booth next week, and it's I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be fun. In fact, that's the orange. They did some Lyra 8s in that colour, so they obviously maybe they've adopted it for the new colours. And these things are built beautifully. I don't know if you saw my review. I reviewed it. I just thought I'll have a look what's inside because he was so kind of adamant about how it had to be beautiful. And I opened it up. On the inside, it's the most beautifully made piece of equipment I've seen since like a 1950s Valve studio equipment. It's just so all the point to point. Well, it's absolutely it's as beautiful on the inside as it sounds, which is unusual. I was expecting an airbox with like a chip in it and a couple of scraggly wires, and it wasn't. It's just immaculate. Anyway, actually, before we move on, I would like to just introduce this moment of Softube. So this is Softube's Parallels. This is their new soft synth, which features a whole load of wave samples from a load of very rare and in some cases unreleased synthesizers they built as the source to the oscillators. Lots of their analog modeling goodness, filter types. These high quality pre-recorded waveforms have lots of evolutionary sounds in them, so lots of harmonic content. There's 100 of them at least. Sonic progression with each one. There are 2 parallel sources, which means you can blend and layer and split and all those things. Hundreds of expertly crafted presets. There's also 3 analog model filter types, a state variable Vactrol, which is nice to see, Buchla style, and resonant peaks. 5 sophisticated modulation source, random Euclidean sequencer, step sequencer, and envelope, and lots of effects as well. So do check that out at softube.com. It was recently on offer, but you can pick it up now. I think it's $149, so do check it out. Okay, right. Next up, let's see what we'll have next. Oh gosh, yeah, did you see this? I've got a video for this. Maybe I'll. Yeah, let's do this one. So this was. I had to log into this. I wonder if I'm still there. So that's right. Yeah, the Yamaha Ideal. Oh God, I can't even say it. Idea Scale, which is a forum that they created last year to sort of just get user input, because I think, you know, the traditional route is you have relationships with artists and whatnot, and that's good, but you get obviously a limited amount of feedback, whereas this, they've encouraged people to kind of log in and just throw some ideas. And they posted a post which ended up on Synthtopia, and it said, it's titled "If We Made a CS80." I said, apologies if you haven't joined, blah, blah, blah. We'd like to understand our analog synthesizer requests a bit more clearly. Please note we move in a very deliberate manner. This is just an initial focusing on the ideas offered so far, because there was basically loads of people saying, remake the CS80, remake the CS80. And it says, if we made a CS80, do you want a vintage reissue or modern evolution? Thanks again for your participation. And that's from Ben from R&D Planning. I wondered how everybody felt about this, because there's something about the largesse of an actual CS80 that you're unlikely to replicate in modern technology, because, you know, things have got smaller, you don't need all that wiring, you're going to try and make it at least a little more reasonable to manufacture. And I'm going to come to you guys first, because Dave, you've got one. I don't know. Ty, I don't think you do have one as well. Yes, of course. So basically there's two CS80 owners in one room. God, what are the chances of that? You have to take out special insurance if there's two of you in one place at the same time. You didn't bring your CS80 with you, did you, Dave? That would be very irresponsible.
No, but I've recently bought a different car, because
it'll fit.
I know it'll fit in the back, and there's no lip on the boot.
And I'm literally in the middle of having to buy one for exactly the same reason. Yeah.
There you go. That's how committed we are.
We buy our cars based on moving the CS80, which we know will be happening shortly.
So what do you think? I mean, what do you think though? Is there a kind of, people say, yeah, I'd love to, but then when it comes down to it, if Yamaha made it, I mean, Yamaha don't make cheap, quality stuff. They put, their stuff is generally a little bit more expensive, but it's built to last, and hence, there are two CS80s for God's sake that still work and more. So I wonder if people say they want one, but when they see how much it's actually going to cost, even if it's an evolution, they might think again.
I think you're probably right, but I'll just start this off by saying, if they, and you can shoot me down on this, if they made a CS80 exactly the same physical form factor, in other words, it was almost indistinguishable from a CS80, I would defy anyone that's actually got a CS80 to not say, I would buy it again tomorrow. Yep.
Really?
Yeah,
that's
great.
Interesting.
I honestly, and it's bearing in mind in terms of, it's got 4 memories. And obviously that's one thing. It would be fantastic if they did increase the memory size, which I'm hoping they could get over 4. Because if you remember, I think we've said this before, it's not actually 4 digital memories, it's 4
analog memories, yeah.
4 analog memories, 4 recreations of all the sliders in little sliders. So it's only got 4 memories, but even so, I could honestly say I would buy one for a good, at quite an expensive price if I knew I was going to be able to get a new one that was reliable tomorrow, because they are, I mean, I know we're the wrong people they are so special.
But isn't that the problem? If they made it exactly the same, it would be just as unreliable, surely, because it would be exactly the same.
No, because in terms of have you ever seen the wiring in one of these?
Yes, I have, yeah. It's astonishing.
So it is unbelievable. The wiring in one of these is scary. It's not even going back to the 70s. It's more or less going back to the 40s. That's what it looks like inside. But there must be a way. I'm basically on about, I'm not even on about the innards, because at the end of the day, we all know that the world has moved on. The innards of this will have to, by very nature, be different in some ways. Well, in lots of ways. But even if you opened one of these up and there was next to nothing in there, if they could make it sound the same, physically look the same,
okay. So
and
it's
have
the
same
physicality.
facility,
It's the physical.
But feel the same, because the keyboard, everyone says about the main thing about this is the performance side of things, because the action
absolutely.
And the poly aftertouch and all that kind of thing. Nothing else feels like one. But if you opened it up and there was next to nothing inside, if facility wise and sound wise and everything, if they made one the same, I wouldn't change anything.
That's interesting. No. I know. Yeah, sorry, go, Dave.
No. I mean, I find it, when we were looking to buy one. I was really nervous because obviously I didn't want to spend vast amounts of money and everything sound like Vangelis. So Kent and I drew up various lists of albums that it had appeared on, and nothing really kind of made me go, wow. But I do remember having one years and years ago in the studio and whatnot, and using one and thinking it was amazing then. And actually what I find really stunning about it is, as a pure synth, it's really not that inspiring. You know, then the resonance doesn't self-oscillate, you know, they're just 12 dB filters, all right, you've got a low and a high pass filter. But it is the one synth out of everything that we have that is far greater than the sum of its parts. And it's all of these things, the ring modulator, I think the ring modulator is perfect. Obviously the ribbon strip, but you've got to be adept to use that. I mean, in fact, I've already vowed, if you invite me back if you do another Bristol event, I will definitely bring the 80 next time, because it's just a synth and it is a player's instrument. What happens in our studio is that people come in and they see the 55 and they go, oh, I'm like 55, and they kind of prod it and go, oh, it's too complicated. And then they go for the 8 voice, and then they go, what, a polyphonic sound out of this? Well, I have to set everything up the same. And then they go, oh, I sod that. And then they go to the Jupiter 8, and then they'll spend a little bit of time there, and then they go to the 80. And that's it. You've lost them for hours. 4 hours I saw somebody sit. And it's not the synth. I mean, the synth sounds great. It's the fact that you've got 2 of them and all of the ancillary stuff. The keyboard is very special. I know before I held up the key, you know, I mean, the throw on the things is huge. So yeah, it's all of those things. So yes, I am in agreement with Ty, actually.
I don't know, Dominic.
It'd be nice if it weighed less.
Yeah, Dominic, I could just imagine there'll be this massive box with basically a refaced CS in it. And it'll have to be, because, I mean, imagine if they made the thing the same way. I mean, it would be, you know, let's say it cost 10,000 quid. It would cost 2,000 quid to ship, you know.
Yeah, totally. There is a post, just that you highlighted a post offline saying, you know, as long as it had X, Y, Z, basically everything, and it didn't cost that much, I'm in. But there is another post in that Yamaha forum saying, well, you've already done it with the Yamaha CS. What are you talking about? You know, so I don't have one. I mean, amazing endorsement from the CS80 twins there, because it's obviously an amazing thing. There's a couple of things, I think. There's the playability, which there is nothing to touch it, but a MIDI keyboard with the polyphonic aftertouch, the swipe, would be a good thing, even as a separate unit. And then I saw the Eric Persing thing. I think we've mentioned it before. The demo
the Jam
that you were at. Oh, the Jam, that's right, which we highlighted here. And suddenly I realised, because I played the CS80 years and years and years ago, but I've never really, you know, nothing to shout about. And I suddenly realised how amazing it was. And then you've got the sound, and clearly it's a combination of all those things that go to make it. So it's not like, I don't know, making a thing that makes the same sounds. You've actually got to make the experience, I guess.
Yeah, and I think that's the tricky bit, isn't it?
Like Ty was saying earlier, if you've got, if you can make it exactly the same as what he's got, it doesn't really matter how you do it. But that's it. The Jupiter 8s, the CS80, in general, the people that talk about it so much haven't really had that much experience of either of them. And then when they come out and their expensive Moog one, you know, Moog really should produce a polyphonic Moog, and then they don't sell huge amounts simply because of the price band, and all the people that want them don't actually buy them. It's the people that really love them that buy them. So yeah, I think they should. Maybe there's an element here of squashing anyone else coming in and building a kind of version.
Yeah,
I don't
maybe.
know.
I just don't see how it could be done. But yeah, you're right. It's the experience, because I mean, you've got that. Is that a Decade Stream there, Ty?
So yeah, so this arrived recently, and it's really nice. It is really nice, but it's really nice, and it's not a CS80. No, that's the thing. And do you know what? Sound-wise, it can get really close, like really close. But as an interface, the way, I mean, I've hooked it up to a Rolly, which is the nearest you're going to get to kind of polyphonic aftertouch, and it's great. And you can get some good sounds out of it, and it's really worth having. But is it a CS80? And the answer's really no. So I really think the only way that you're going to get a CS80 is generally going to be So, Yamaha doing it again, but
better.
Trying to do it
but with the interface,
well,
but having the interface.
Yeah.
Well, there is this
a similar interface.
Yeah, there's one of the comments that was on the Synthtopia thread for this story, and it's a guy called Stephen Muller who said, as long as it has the same controls, poly aftertouch, the ribbon, ring mod, and can be carried by one normal human being without assistant, and stays more or less in tune for a reasonable amount of time, sounds good, and costs less than $3,000. Everything else is negotiable, which I think is a great line, which basically ties it to being exactly what it is already, only cheaper. But yeah, perfect. But yeah, I mean, maybe we'll see it. I mean, it's funny. There's this thing, isn't there? I mean, I have the same thing because Dave, when I was what was it? I was looking at the JP08, wasn't I, for Roland, and you lent me your Jupiter 8. And I must admit, I didn't really feel the Jupiter 8 was anything special. I mean, the largesse and the physicality of it was what was good. And I remember at the time saying the reason it was so popular was because it had facilities that made it every band who were big, who you might be into at that time, were into synths, would have one because it was the thing that you would use for touring, multiple outputs, great performance interface, speed. But the actual sound itself didn't really kind of light me on fire. I know we disagree about this a little bit, but it's about the thing, isn't it? It's the thing. The JP08 is not anything like, I mean, yeah, it could sound a bit like it, but it's nothing like the same experience. And that comes down to the whole hardware versus software thing, which is, it could be a neat tie-in actually, Dave, because you could then plug your latest product.
Yeah, I could. Well, why not?
You might not. All right, okay.
Can I just talk about
I'll give you the option.
My great salesman.
No,
I might not.
So we've done an update to Mtron Pro, and anyone who's on our mailing list should know already. It's a free update. It's got multiple GUI sizes, and I really wanted this brake function in it. So in the old days, some people used to cut holes in the top of their Mellotrons and Chamberlains and prod the flywheel to use it as a kind of pitch bend thing. And that's what I really wanted.
I've got that here. Look, I'll show you.
To the flywheel,
They've done
they
it.
can introduce pitch bend or pitched effects at strategic points in their track and performance.
There we go. That's what they were doing,
Okay.
right?
Yeah, and I really wanted a kind of realistic sounding thing of that, and the guys put their minds to work and did it and came up with it. And Chris has been really hard at work on the interfaces, and it's clearer to read. And because even I was looking at the previous version, was just kind of going, I can't read that. My eyesight's not bad for well, I can see shapes, put it that way.
And I can make out oncoming headlights. Yeah.
Yeah, shadows. I did frighten somebody in the car the other day and said, "Can you tell me when that next signpost what it says? Because I can just about make out shadows and shapes." And they were like, "Are you for real?" And I was joking. So yeah, no, they've done a great job, and it was released yesterday. And yeah, so thank you. I can plug it.
Excellent. I'm glad to hear that. So I wanted to get that in there because otherwise you'd leave it right to the end, and not everybody watches all the way to the end every time. So
Well,
I wanted to
perfect bit. If you're talking about CS80, everyone's going to be listening. My tip to Yamaha would be, if I can just revert to it, if they intend to do this, my tip to them is don't make it like the Jupiter 80.
Oh God!
There you go.
No.
Yeah.
I think that's the real. No, I know. And the thing was, the Jupiter 80, as a synth, as an instrument, fine, no problem.
Yeah.
It's just there was that line, wasn't there, in the comments? It's like they exhumed a relative and then sort of put some clothes on it and sort of said, "Hey, look, Grandma, it's great to see you. She's back." And it's like, no, sort of, not really. It didn't really, because it was just poorly. It was poorly handled. But the JP80, as an instrument, lots of people swear by it and still think it's a great instrument. And I'm not decrying it. It was just the association was a bit uncomfortable.
This association, absolutely.
Yeah. In fact, weirdly enough, I did look at a Jupiter 80 the other day and thought,
yeah, they're nice.
Maybe. And then I thought, don't be stupid, you idiot.
Yeah.
You've got enough synths.
Well, the 60 was worth having, I think, actually, as well, because it was a lot cheaper, but it still had a lot of the same technology, including.
And that's the joke with the CS80 versus the CS60, because obviously we had a 60 originally, and you're sold this kind of lie, essentially, that it's half a CS80, and it's not. But you need to sit down behind a CS80 to go, it's definitely not half a CS80. So a CS60, I've noticed that prices of those have really started to go a bit mad recently. And it's
actually,
like,
I've got a story. I might actually be slightly instrumental in whatever happens because, we did that tour after NAMM with Nate Chetta around the Yamaha kind of synth room that they had in Century City, which is it Century City? Somewhere not far away from NAMM that I went to on the way back from NAMM, and we did a synth tour, and it was great. And they didn't have a CS80. And as a result of the video, which just got stupid amounts of views, somebody local got in touch and sold them a CS80. So they now have a CS80 in the room. So it might, which may or may not be being used as some kind of motivation or inspiration for whatever might be coming in the future. I mean, I tell you, it's total conjecture, obviously.
There's one thing they definitely need to change, though. If they do it, this is definitely something they need to change. The string presets. Have you ever heard a crappier bunch of string presets?
Yeah, the string presets aren't
And do
good.
you know that CS actually stands for compact synthesizer?
Yeah, it weighs 100 kilos.
That's funny.
Yeah.
And I heard a rumor that actually they lost money. This came from Kent. That they lost money on every one of these, but this was the 80 was to announce that the Japanese had arrived and they were serious about compact synthesizers. And boy, were they serious.
Yeah,
that's funny. I can imagine.
Okay.
Imagine a shipment of those coming over. You know, you could imagine that it would just, you'd need special vehicles. It'd be like one per tanker. You know, it's crazy. Anyway, it's a fun story, and it may well happen. In fact, I'm going to be meeting the Yamaha people at Super Booth again, which is next week. Apparently, I got a thumbs up. There's a possibility we have accommodation, but I'm still to find out what that might be. So we'll see.
Hey.
Let's see. It was 5-2. Okay, I'm going to do this because I rewrote the headline on this story because I just thought it wasn't sleazy enough. So I wrote the original headline is new clap machine, and I just wrote the perfect clap, which I thought was a little bit more. Oh, it's hand clap synth. So let's just have this. So this is just quickly. Put your hands together. This is just a software clap synth, and it's really, got a lot of randomization. And it's by what they call Together Audio. Built-in limiter, which is a really good idea. Audition button, effects and whatnot. And, music's cheap, but hand claps, really important, I think. Hand claps are really, really important. And, Claptrap, as we know, is one of the finest hardware clap machines ever made. But I wondered, what's your favourite clap? I know, Dominic, is there a clap that you would, because the 808 is a classic, and particularly when you start slowing it down as well, and the 909, very classic. But what's your favourite clap?
Claps. Well, I was just going to say claps are weird, aren't they? Because they don't sound like claps. That doesn't sound like anything else. It's a bit, they're like the honeycomb of claps. Claps are like honeycomb, in that honeycomb goes in with bees and it's all beautiful, and then you bite into a crunch and it's got nothing to do with the thing, but and yet they're both called honeycomb. A clap is like that, really. And so if you get around a mic in the old days, back before we had the Claptrap and all the rest of it, then a bunch of people around the mic, even that didn't really sound like a bunch of people around the mic doing claps, because they're very, very transient. So I don't know. I mean, the 909 clap to me is the sort of ultimate clap, but that's now obviously completely iconic and overused and all the rest of it. A real clap I get, what I wanted to see, sorry, when I saw this synth come out is, and I haven't looked at it properly, is that it's obviously a synthetic clap generator. It would be great to get some samples in there of people around mics and stuff as well, which you could then put through filters, because in general they're just so impossible to capture that right. It's, in some cases, you want to put a clap right up the front, like a snare, like a lot of house tracks with 909s use the clap more like a snare and the snare more like a fill. Whereas sometimes you just want a kind of nice ambient noise pushing the thing along, which is like a sort of staggered bunch of people all clapping at the same time. So, cut a long story short, I think my favorite clap is really getting a bunch of people round a mic and clapping along to the track and just running it in the background with a little bit of reverb.
Right, that's a fair point. I think we've talked about the process of it as well, because whenever you sample one, you have to sample like 25 because you hear it every single time. This allows for a bit of variation. New show title. It was going to be the CS80 twins. The new show title could be a load of clap. So we'll just have to bear that in mind. Guys, favorite clap. I mean, I don't know, Ty. Do you need synthetic claps in your work very often? I mean, I guess maybe with Migs you might have done.
No, I hate claps. I always have done. I hate the sound of them. I just don't. They just don't think this new trend now of with contemporary music where the snare is quite low in the mix and it's all about claps everywhere drives me insane. Never liked them. Do I have a favourite clap? Actually, I tell you, my favourite clap is actually the clap from an RZ1, Casio RZ1, which sounded absolutely nothing like a clap. But because it sounded nothing like a clap, I quite liked it. Claps that sound like claps, 808 claps, 909 claps, all the, drum tracks clap was quite nice because that was quite dull, but not really a clap. Shall I tell you one funny story about claps? Vaguely.
Go, please.
Do you remember I told you about, I did this this program about 100 vaginas. I think I told you I did the soundtrack for this thing. And there was a big part of that score that involved clapping. And so I did a lot of the percussion was all just lots of clapping. And I spent weeks doing this, and I got loads of sample libraries and loads, and the clapping was a major part of the score. And it was only the day after I finished the score that I suddenly did think, hang on a minute, why didn't I just clap? Because it was all one person clapping. It was all meant to sound like one person clapping. But rather than recording myself just clapping, I spent weeks using samples
it's bizarre,
to make it sound like one person clapping. So, I mean, it's just an idiot, essentially. But I think it's a long... Give me credit. No, go on. You go.
I like clap.
I hate it.
I like the clap. Oh, no, I like claps. I mean, what would Forget-Me-Nots be without the hand claps? Patrice Russian's Forget-Me-Nots.
But they were they were unusual though, weren't they? Because they sounded a bit like a very short staccato 808 with a little bit of extra reverb on it. I mean, they probably were hand claps though.
Yeah, and they had more reverb on than anything else. But
I did a remix of that.
Loads of claps. Classic track. What a bass line. What a singer. No, I in fact, it's funny because you were saying about digging out the DR110. For me, the highlight of the DR110 was the clap. Okay. It was like, because I couldn't afford an 808 back then. It was like, this is a 55 or a 110. So the 110 was like, I've got my clap. Obviously 909s goes without saying. I have to say, I use some RMX. They're real claps.
Okay. They've got the randomization. Yeah.
And they're all flammed. And in fact, he does there's an add-on pack where he does, I think it's like a load of gospel singers stamping and hand claps and stuff, all that rhythmic stuff. I've used that tons and tons.
I bet that's good. Yeah. I'm with you, Ty. The other claps. I mean, the Kawai R100.
R100
claps.
I was about to say the R100 claps. Love them. I used to have a 100 and loved that. That was a game. If you're going to go for claps, the reason I liked them was they didn't really sound like claps. And I think back to the software, what I actually like is the fact that on this is the sound design element. When you go into the expert, you can basically mess around with them, so it appears they don't really sound like claps. That I'm well in for. It's more when they're trying to make it sound like claps, I'm not into that. But this software, if you can make them just sound like kind of flammed sound design, cool.
Flams are it.
Yeah. Anyway, it's pay what you like. You have to just go to, where is it? I found.
Great. Well, that's fantastic.
So you
$10 minimum, I think.
$10 minimum. So
CL4P.
I'm going to play this just because I found this is my remix that I did. I think it's the first remix we did of Forget-Me-Nots by a band called Tongue and Cheek. They're really good vocalists. This is the classic Philly break that we use on everything. Bit of 909, and I'm just trying to see what the claps were because I can't remember. It's such a long time ago. Here we go. There we go. Solid bass. I think those are the original claps that I sampled. Oh, hold on. M1 piano coming in. Hold on, ready?
Superb.
M1.
Oh, yes.
That was.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Anyway, gosh, that's taken us to past 5 o'clock, and I'm glad I've got a red light behind me because I think I might be blushing slightly there. I wasn't quite ready for the actuality of what that was going to sound like. I hit play before thinking about it. I think it did chart. I think it was top 20 that actually somehow. Anyway, right. Well, that's it for this week. I think we're pretty much there. The only thing I wanted to mention was there's a gig we've been involved with Will Gregory helping put together this gig in Bath at Comedia on the 26th of May with Apparat and Dataline. Cenk from I'm see if I can open this web browser up. And so if you want to get tickets and you're in the Bath area and that's the sort of thing you're into, let me just throw the page up. Yeah, if you look at Bath Festival, it's on the closing night of Bath Festival. It's Apparat who's looking a bit tired there, but with Cenk, aka Dataline. So and that is, you can find tickets on there. In fact, I think I've got a bit.ly URL, which is just bit.ly/Apparat, which is 2 P's and 1 R -Bath. Apparat-Bath. It will get you there if you want to buy tickets. Because it'd be good if it filled up, because the idea with this is the Bath Music Festival has traditionally been much more about sort of classical music and in some cases jazz. They haven't really broadened out too much into contemporary electronica, and Will and I were talking about it and sort of thought we'd like to try and broaden it because Bath has got so many students, massive student population. We should be putting on some stuff that's a bit more appealing to the people who are in Bath day to day. So that's the idea behind it. So if this goes well, who knows what we'll get next time, but it's a first go, so do check it out. I think that
next time.
Sorry, what? Hey?
Get Moderat next time. No, Apparat and Moderat, aren't they the same band?
They are. Moderat is a derivative. Apparat is in Moderat. They must mean something. They probably have a meaning that we probably can't say what they are. Apparat and Moderat.
I love them both. I'll tell you, I've got loads of their stuff. I love them.
Yeah. Oh well, maybe you can come along. Who knows? Might be fun.
Yeah, put us on the list.
Funny, yeah, we'll see how that goes. I'm not sure if I'm going to be there yet because I was supposed to be going on holiday that day. That was unfortunate. I booked the flight before they told me what the date was, but we'll have to see how that goes. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us as ever. Much appreciated. Just to remind you, there is no show next week because we'll be in Berlin. There will be a show week after where we might indeed have Jim from Synth Memes Facebook group, who's actually coming to Berlin for the first time, and he's going to come back and stay with us for a couple of days. So he might be in Bath, so he might have a guest in the studio. Who knows? See if I could talk him into it. So Dominic, thank you so much for joining us. Is your app out yet? Have you got something to plug?
I almost have something to plug. The guys from Apple that have been helping me out on the sly, I signed it off this morning, so that's good. So it will now finally go out to test some beta stuff, and it is looking amazing, actually. Even if I say so myself, it's been a real a lot of work, but it looks fantastic. So I'm really excited. And what will people search for? What do people have to search for to find out? Snuggle Sounds. Snuggle Sounds is the name of the company and the app, and the future of our destiny in the world, to be honest.
That you can't argue with that. That's a fantastic statement. I'm not one for marketing hyperbole, but that sounds genius. And gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us as well. It's a pleasure to have you both together. I'm sure you'll be enjoying more synth time now that when you get off camera.
We're good at that. Yeah.
So is the version 3 a paid upgrade, free upgrade to?
Free upgrade for existing users. And I think Chris has done like a 50% off, I don't know for how long, a week or something, of all the expansion packs. So
nice.
That's there as well. But yeah, no, version 3 is a paid upgrade. And it should just be an existing user's accounts.
It's a free upgrade.
A free upgrade, yes.
Yeah, that's right.
Did I say paid? No,
you said paid.
I'll get killed for that when I get back. It'd be like, great podcast, shame about the fact you screwed it up, as usual.
Brilliant. Well, Dave and also Ty, lovely to have you as well. And one day we'll get you over to Berlin too, because there's going to be a whole bunch of fun people over there, and it's the sort of thing that you would thoroughly enjoy. I know it.
I know. Yeah, I know. I just couldn't do it this year either. So
never mind. Well,
I will definitely.
So that's it for this week. Don't forget to enter the competition. You've just got to tweet the hashtag Spectral Repair. Oops, wrong button. tweet the hashtag Spectral Repair and the hashtag RX7 to @Sonicstate and @iZotope Inc. And also want to say thank you to Softube. Do check out their Parallels software synthesizer. Okay, that's it for this week. We'll wave you out and we'll see you all next time. Bye-bye now.